today. I want to just preface my talk here today. I just want to preface this talk by saying that I would prefer this to not be just a monologue, and if you can keep it a dialogue. So if you guys have any questions, if you have any comments, if anything resonates true to you, please feel free to comment or engage with me or engage with the chat. That would be fantastic. And number two is that, again, this is not a you're going to hear a lot of words like energy, frequency, vibration, but again, none of this is religious in nature. If you feel more comfortable with switching words out with God or source or infinite intelligence, please feel free to do so. But again, this is not a religious conversation. This is, in fact, a physics conversation, quantum physics in particular. And I just wanted to set those 2 points before we begin. So you may have looked me up. You may have not looked me up. If you don't know who I am, my name is Sheikh. On social media, I'm known as Quantum Sheikh. And I recently just started speaking maybe in the last 3 years. It wasn't something I intended to do. It was just something I was called upon to do. I am a global speaker. I'm an investor. I focus mainly on lifestyle design. I get to live my own personal dream life. I get to travel around the world, speak to thousands of people, work on some really interesting projects. I have the financial freedom and homes and residencies across the globe. And I only share this to help you understand that my life was not like this only a few short years ago. And whether it's, flying my family and friends out to very cool places, whether it's 2 weeks in the Mediterranean or spoiling my family with lakefront property for 2 weeks, or I've tailored my life to basically fit my life to do exactly what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want, with who I want, because that's what I had designed my lifestyle to do so. And I'm going to share some things that I've discovered along the way, how you can apply this to your own life, and why not you? So what I'm talking about today is called the art of receiving. And the art of receiving, I've applied it to every single area of my life, and you can apply it to every single area of your life. If you stay engaged, if you pay attention, take notes, I guarantee you that you can integrate these concepts into many different aspects of your own life. So let me start off. Who wants more money?
I think we all do.
Who wants more money? Okay. Who wants more love? I think. Who wants more opportunities to show up in your life? More health, more peace, more freedom. I think it's fair to say we'd all love more of this to easily and effortlessly show up in our lives. But the real question is, how many of you are ready to receive it when it shows up? How many of you think you are ready to receive it? So picture this, right? You're at a party and someone comes up to you and they're like, hey, that outfit you have on looks incredible. You look amazing. And then how do we typically respond? Oh, this old thing, this old hand-me-down, it's nothing, I just got it for $20 off the shelf. Or maybe someone comes up to you and said, hey, your hair, you look amazing. And our response typically is, it's just a good hair day, it's nothing. Another example could be your boss comes up to you and praises you for the project you did last week and says, hey, that project you did last week, you did a fantastic job. And even though you worked really hard on it, you're like, oh, boss, it was nothing. It was nothing. Or maybe another example could be you go to your friend's house or you go to someone's house and they offer you some food and beverage. You're really thirsty, you're really hungry. And what do we say? Oh, I don't need anything. I'm good, even though you're super thirsty. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we do that? What is this behavior that we do? Do you think it's perhaps because we want to virtue signal that we are very virtuous, that we don't need anything? We're so humble that we don't need anything. What I'm here to tell you is that it starts with our capacity to receive. You see, wealthy and abundant people have a very high capacity to receive because they're always giving their products, they're giving their services, they're giving their advice, their time, their resources. So they have a high capacity to receive. You see, your capacity to receive is directly correlated with your self-worth. When you're able to receive really well, you typically are giving really well. And this shows up in many different aspects of our life. And we need to understand that the giving and receiving process, it's like a energetic cycle that needs to be complete. It's a spiral that needs to be complete between the giver and receiver. What happens is that when we deny or we resist receiving something, when somebody wants to give you a compliment, when somebody wants to show up and give you opportunities, when someone wants to give you love or appreciation, and because we are programmed to basically deny the giver, what happens is the spiral is incomplete and two people walk away from that interaction feeling unfulfilled because the giver wanted to give you something and they feel good about giving you something and you didn't receive it well. So subconsciously in the back of your mind, you've told yourself that you don't deserve this thing. And what happens is that two people walk away from that engagement feeling unfulfilled. And this is why typically people with less financial freedom or less financial abundance have this problem. It's a limiting belief that we are unconsciously unaware of that we need to break through. And this brings us to what I call the human condition. This is the same reason why many lottery winners will win millions of dollars and go completely broke. If I were to give you all $10 million cash today, that would be really nice, right? $10 million cash today. But you need to understand that the person that holds $10 million is a completely different person than the person you are today if you don't have that kind of money. Because upon receiving $10 million, you need to understand that your environment will change, your friendship group may change, your problems will change, your concerns will change, even family members may change. But most people are not willing to go through that change to be able to hold that level of wealth because that requires a nervous system upgrade. Your nervous system can only hold a very limited amount as it currently is, because if you actually just were to increase your nervous system to be able to hold a much larger capacity for wealth, opportunities, love, health, whatever it is that you desire in life, you would already have it. Your current status is simply a reflection of what your nervous system can hold. You see, life is constantly giving us opportunities, support, guidance, abundance, love, and wisdom. But most of us unconsciously are blocking it because we have been taught since birth that our worthiness is something that must be earned. Love must be chased. Success requires suffering and sacrifice. How many of people have heard that success requires a sacrifice? We are taught that receiving is a very selfish endeavor. And as children, we're typically taught that we should give more than we take. Don't ask for help, work really hard for a dollar, and don't be needy. So this has turned everyone into becoming exceptional givers, but no one really teaches us how to receive. But what happens in life when something really difficult happens? Something really difficult happens where, say your business goes under, you have a business partner that screws you over, you have a health issue, or you get dumped. It becomes very hard to receive. Receiving adversity is very, very difficult. You see, not too long ago, I remember waking up in my cold basement apartment here in Toronto. This is only about 7 or 6 years ago. I remember waking up with a deep sense of dread. You see, my life wasn't always like this. I'd wake up with a deep sense of dread. And I remember getting into my car for a really long commute and, putting on the radio every single day to drown out my own voice of, I hate myself, I hate my life. I would repeat that to myself. I hate myself, I hate my life. And I remember pulling up to my office. I used to work for some Fortune 500 companies. And at that time I was working for, it's a Hitachi parts manufacturing company. And I remember pulling up to the driveway, and for some reason I was very viscerally aware of my surroundings. And I remember going through the turnstile doors. It was literally a turnstile door you would see for cattle, one of those metal turnstile doors. And I remember going through the turnstile doors and scanning my hand on the fingerprint scanner because the boss would not pay you for a second if you're too late. And I remember walking, for some reason, I was just really taking in my surroundings on this day. I remember looking at my surroundings, and the walls were gray. The floors were gray. Even the cubicle dividers were gray. I sat down on my desk, and even my desk was gray. I remember looking to my right, and there was a poster of a kitten hanging off of a thread, and the poster said, "Just hang in there." And then I remember looking around at my coworkers at the time. I was the youngest one in the office at the time, and my coworkers, they were what we call lifers. They've been there for 30 years, 40 years, and I'd observe them every single day counting down on the calendar till the day that they can take a vacation, the day that they could potentially retire. And what would happen is that when it came time to take a vacation, most of them felt guilty taking a vacation. Their own vacation. They felt bad about taking their vacation. So if they did take a vacation, they would just take a staycation. And they would not do they didn't have the energy or the zest to do something exciting. Sorry, did we have a comment, or I just heard a ding? So there we go. Okay. And they would just take a staycation. And I knew at that moment that if I stay here, that this is my future for the next 30 or 40 years. But sure enough, time went on. And then until one day, I remember there was a mass email sent out from HR to the entire office. And the mass email basically announced and outlined that, mass layoffs are coming. There was a lot of fear and anxiety in the air. And sure enough, I got the call. Me and 10 other of my colleagues, we got rounded up and we got pulled out to the HR director's office. And the HR director just looked at us and so coldly said, you guys are all terminated. Please gather your belongings and leave the premises immediately. It was like we were criminals at that moment. It was so strange. It was very shocking. And I remember my colleague to the right of me, she was one of those lifers I was talking about. She's been there for 30, 40 years. Her entire identity was attached to this job. She lived in the city to work at this job. All her friends were her colleagues, and she identified herself with her job title. And for her, she started wailing and crying immediately. And, I felt so bad for this lady, but it was like a death. It was like a death of herself, because she didn't know this is her one income source, and this was being taken away from her right at that moment. And I remember leaving that day, and I wanted to so badly fall into the rejection, fall into the unworthiness, fall into my victimhood. But for some reason, an inner voice inside of me said, this is a gift. This right here is a gift. So I received it as such. I received this seemingly negative situation as a gift. And what happened was that, I'm proud to say, 7 years later, I get to have financial freedom. I've never looked back, and I get to live a really extraordinary life, my own personal dream life. And this is what brings us to this principle, this universal principle coined by Albert Einstein, that energy can never be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. You know, receiving adversity. How many times in life have you had a situation where, you know, you got dumped, you lost a job, your business partner screwed, something difficult happened to you, but 5 or 10 years down the road, you look back on it and you're like, wow, I'm so grateful that thing happened because I wouldn't be where I am today, or I wouldn't have learned what I learned today. Is that something that has happened to people?
I've had jobs where I didn't even last like a month.
Right. And 5 or 10 years down the road, you're like, I'm so grateful that thing happened because you wouldn't be running this program today, or this community today. And this is typically how all things in life are. But at the time of the point of the adversity, we can't see the hidden seed of the gift, because you need to understand that inside of every single, even negative situation, there is a hidden seed of a gift. So what I'm suggesting is that instead of suffering for 5 or 10 years, you can completely collapse that time span that it takes you from this negative situation to a very, very positive situation, and transmute this negative situation into the gift that it actually is. You just need to have the foresight to see it as such. So does anybody use Threads, or am I the only one? Anyone use Threads? So the reason I shared that story about that lady earlier was that what I propose is that you never attach yourself to a person, a job title, a place, or a thing. You only attach yourself to a purpose, a mission, and a grand vision only. And that's how you stay aligned to your highest self while maintaining inner peace and power. You see, what happens is that in your mind, you have something called the reticular activating system. And when you give yourself a life vision, when you give yourself a grand vision, and that's the only thing you stay attached to, your brain works like a missile guided system. Your brain works in images. That's how your brain basically sees things. So, it's the same reason why you're thinking about buying a certain car. If I told you to think about red cars, if I told you to focus on only red and you looked around your room, you'll be really easily able to pull out all the red inside of your room. And this is the power of the reticular activating system, your mind's eye. When you are able to create a clear vision in your mind of exactly the life that you want, exactly what you're doing, when you're doing it, with who you're doing it, and you only stay attached, what happens is that when things in your life show up, such as opportunities, such as partnerships, such as relationships, and you are attached to your life vision, and you're attached to nothing else in between, what happens is that this is how you're able to stay aligned to your highest vision. And when things show up in your life, you're quickly and easily able to start deciphering between what is in alignment for you and what is not in alignment for you. You're quickly able to say, hey, this is in aligned with my higher vision, or this is not in aligned to my higher vision. And this is when you start taking inspired, aligned action. When you start taking inspired, aligned action, this is when you stop kind of going in a circle. You may be taking less actions, but you will be taking inspired, aligned action, which takes you farther, faster, with fewer actions. And you will actually typically start making less and less mistakes because you are taking less action from a vision that's not yours. Okay. And this brings me to another story. When I remember I didn't have a life vision. So when I had left my career in corporate, I quickly got into the e-commerce space. And at that time, I was running a hair extensions business, and it was running good, and we were doing well. However, this e-commerce business, just like with any other business, you have to wear 10 different hats. You have to do the accounting, the marketing, the copywriting, the fulfillment, the shipping, the orders. And when I initially left my job, I did not leave my job to just work 10 times harder. And, I was taking stimulants, I was taking all kinds of things just so I can keep grinding, keep forcing my way so I don't have to go back to a job. into this e-commerce job. And this was kind of my old programming of survival, where I would force myself to take certain actions in order to get a certain outcome. So it was costing me my health, it was costing my relationships. And this is when I'm sacrificing for success. I was sacrificing the life I want for success. It wasn't until I got really clear on my life vision, was I able to start automating my business, was able to only start having to work 4 hours a week. And then I got into more passive forms of income, passive streams of income, where I was able to completely become financially free. So I could spend my time doing the things I love with the people I love instead of sacrificing everything for the sake of money. Because you need to understand that money, what you really want is what money will give you. You want the end vision. Money is simply the means. It's a means to the end. But most of us focus simply on the means, when we should be focusing on the end, and don't stay attached to the means. When you still simply stay focused on the end, you never know how the end will come for you, but it will come if you do it correctly. And the means will naturally show up to support that end vision that you're seeking. Okay, because when you give yourself a life vision, when you give your brain and your mind a life vision, it basically gives your brain a GPS signal. Most people know what they don't want, but very few people know what they actually want in life. But when you do figure it out in a visual sense, you will give your brain, again, that missile guided system that I was telling you about earlier, to go and find the situations in the shortest path possible to give you that GPS signal, because your brain literally works like that. So this brings me to my next point, which is all these different categories in life. Because, we have really taught ourselves in this day and age that abundance is only in the form of financial life. But now in 2026, 2027, we understand that all of these categories in life are completely interrelated. If you sacrifice one of these aspects of your life, another part of your life will be affected. So these, I would say, are the main categories in life that I focus on in my community, because I think if you abundance can be redefined. Abundance is no longer just this or that. You can have this and that and that and that, and you can have it all.
Sheikh, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes, please.
I'm seeing the slide with Albert Einstein right now. Are you guys seeing the same one? I don't know if we're on the same slide as you.
I'm on a different.
Okay, now I see the slide with the life and the different categories. Okay.
Okay, so you must have missed this one. Is everyone on the same boat? Because now,
it was showing the one with Einstein and transmuting energy, but now I see the correct slide.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, so these are the categories we focus on life. And because all of these are interrelated, and when you can optimize all of them, and instead of just focusing on one while sacrificing the others, this is when you're going to create truly an abundant life, in my opinion, because money is simply the old measurement of abundance. But we understand now to live a holistic life, because you meet a lot of people that may have a very high financial life, but the rest of their life is in complete shambles. So that's what happens when you start getting into that old paradigm where you have to believe you have to sacrifice certain things to get one category in life. But what we focus on is our beliefs about each and every single one of these categories, because ultimately your beliefs are a filtering system. So whenever you are seeking out a life vision, you will first filter your actions based off of the beliefs you have about certain categories. So we need to completely basically rewire our beliefs about each and every single one of these categories. For example, my old beliefs around money was that I need to work really hard for money. I need to sacrifice my time for money. I need to, or money is only for greed. Thinking or talking about money is distasteful. It's only for greedy people. But are these beliefs gonna really take me towards my life vision? Likely not. If I hold deep-rooted beliefs around this on a very subconscious level, likely my life vision will be very difficult, because for my life vision, I wanted, to have the time to spend and do the things that I want to do. Likely, my actions are gonna be filtered through these old beliefs and won't be able to get me to my life vision. So we need to really self-excavate here. We need to go through a deep self-excavation process to really figure out what are my core beliefs that I hold about each and every single one of my categories. And where did these beliefs come from? Were they from my upbringing? Was it from my cultural background? Was it from my teachers? Was it from my parents? Do they have the life that I want in these certain categories? And if not, maybe they all well-intentioned, but the beliefs that were imparted upon me may not serve me to go towards my life. Because ultimately, we go through life to basically justify back to ourselves that our beliefs are true. Our brain, again, with the reticular activating system, we look for reasons to basically tell ourselves why our beliefs are true. And we'll find reasons to confirm to us why our beliefs are true. So if I believe that money is scarce, money is hard to get, or relationships are hard to get, or I'm unlovable, or I'm not intelligent, I'm not smart, then we will basically create situations in our life to confirm those beliefs back to us. Please, yes, go ahead. Is there a hand up, or I just heard a ding?
We had someone else request to join.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Are we following along? Sorry, I can't see anyone. So good, thumbs up. Awesome.
Thumbs up.
So I just want to, we're gonna do a quick little exercise here. It's just a quick little meditation. So if I can please get everybody to close their eyes, and if Danny, you want to just let me know if the track works.
Okay.
Let me just see. You hear it?
I heard a little whooshing sound for a second.
Okay, so maybe it won't play for my computer. Okay, I'll play for my phone. It's not a big deal. Okay, 1 second.
Actually, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you. If you had one exercise people could practice after this call to kind of rewire these beliefs, and I think you're about to lead us through one of these exercises right now. Is that right?
It's not quite a rewiring of beliefs exercise, but it's to demonstrate what I'm talking about, how powerful this is, and that it's not something woo-woo. Science is actually just catching up to explain these concepts to you. New science is emerging, new physics is emerging to basically confirm what has been long considered maybe woo-woo pseudoscience to actual science on how our reality and how our body works, basically. So,
all right, I'm ready. Are you guys ready? Thumbs up.
okay. So if everyone can just please close their eyes for this session here. So I just want everyone to really just drop in here. Just really get present in your body. Just bring your awareness all to where you are right now. Forget about your day. And just bring all your awareness into your body. Let's take one big breath, 4 seconds in and 6 seconds out. We'll just do 2 more, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. So for this session, I want you to really bring your awareness down to your feet. Really bring that, pinpoint your conscious awareness down into your feet. Now, I want you to shift your awareness to your right foot. Shift your awareness to your right foot. You can really feel your right foot on the ground where you are right now. Maybe it's in your shoes, maybe you're barefoot, but you can really feel your right foot. Now, I want you to shift your awareness to your large toe. Feel your large toe. You can wiggle your large toe. Now, I want you to imagine a scenario where there is a nail or a screw being placed under your large right toenail. You can feel its sharpness. You can really feel this nail. It's uncomfortable. And this nail is put right underneath your toenail. Now, I want you to imagine yourself walking up to the closest wall around you. You have this your toenail has a screw tucked into it, and you're walking up to a solid wall. Now, I want you to imagine swinging your foot back and anticipating the sensation of kicking a wall. You're anticipating the sensation. You have a nail in your toenail and you're about to slam it into a wall. You can really feel the moment of impact before it's happening. Now imagine yourself kicking into this wall as hard as you can, and that nail is driving into your toe. And you can feel the sensation. It is super uncomfortable. I'm going to end this meditation right here, right now. And it was very quick, and I just wanted to demonstrate to you. You can come back. You can come back and open your eyes. It's very uncomfortable. The nail being driven into your toe, nobody wants to feel that. It's very uncomfortable. And I know that this isn't what you want to feel this morning or this afternoon, but I just wanted to demonstrate the power of visualization and our mind. You see, our mind and our body can often have the same physical sensations as something that we can imagine in our mind. Okay, because you can feel the nail being driven into your toe, but you're having the same chemicals being released as if that event is real, even though it is not. This is the power of visualization on a very visceral level. And that the reason I used the nail, because I wanted to make it extremely blatant and obvious how uncomfortable it is, because your body will literally feel the sensations as if the event is occurring. And I bring this to my next quote here with Albert Einstein, that everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. You need to match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics by Albert Einstein. You know, what we sometimes consider woo-woo is oftentimes just not caught up. For example, fire was once upon a time considered a miracle. But when science caught up, we can finally explain what fire is. And this is the same thing with our lives. We're finally understanding how our beliefs are essentially creating reality, and how energy pervades all situations and all circumstances in our life. It's just matching the frequency of that event that we want. This brings me to my next slide.
I'm still seeing the one with the life and the categories. So
Is it?
Yeah, now I see subconscious mind reprogramming.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the same for everyone. Okay, so we were here.
Yep.
Okay, this was this slide over here. I'm not too sure why it's let me see.
Einstein's looking sharp there.
Are we can you see this slide? Subconscious mind reprogramming?
Yep.
Okay.
So just out of curiosity, do you use that visualization exercise where you're slamming the screw into the wall when you're trying to reject something like a behavior or
No
situation?
No, it was simply to demonstrate the power of our mind and the power of visualization. To simply demonstrate to you that your body often does not know between an imagined experience and a real experience. And if we're able to imagine certain experiences to a point of feeling, our body can get into a feeling state to basically create that reality to show up for us. And that's what Albert Einstein was talking about in that speech. And this is why many athletes, many high performers visualize themselves winning certain things before the event actually occurs. It's a very important part of their practice. But this brings me to my next slide, which is about the subconscious mind and reprogramming. You see, when I was growing up, I was never the smartest kid. I was never the brightest kid. In fact, I got into a lot of trouble. I got suspended almost every single year from grade 3 to grade 11. And what would happen is that my teachers, my guidance counselors, my parents, what would they say to me? I mean, they would say, you're not smart as the other kids. You're going to be a failure. You're not going to pass. You're not going to become successful in life. You're not like the other kids. And, when you're a child and you see the adults around you saying this, you kind of take their word as truth, as the ultimate bearers of truth. So what happens is that I internalized these things about myself. I internalized these beliefs about myself. So what happened was, when I was 14 and I got into the workforce, I would get fired from I got fired from like 10 different jobs. Same thing would keep happening, where I would get a job, and for some reason, a few months down the line, I would get some form of success, and I would manage to self-sabotage myself to lose a job, to get fired, to get into some sort of situation, because I had the subconscious belief that I was not worthy of success. And I accepted this thing as truth. And what would happen is that when I would get into a job or get into a situation, I would basically prepare for the worst outcome. I would expect the worst outcome. I would visualize and replay this inevitable outcome that would show up in my life. So this pattern would keep repeating over and over again, and I could not figure out why. It wasn't until I was able to break my subconscious programming, was I able to finally find meaningful success in my life and reprogram these beliefs, these deep-rooted beliefs that I had about myself. Because this would start showing up in every other area of my life. It would start showing up in my finances. It would start showing up in my relationships. And these beliefs would almost be like on a constant loop, reconfirming back to myself my beliefs, and this would cement itself over time. You see, sometimes your conscious mind wants success, but your subconscious mind believes you are a failure. We need to understand that the subconscious mind literally runs 95% of our life. Think about that. 95%. You think you're making decisions in your life, but actually there's a hidden program in your subconscious mind that's running basically everything. Even think about your breathing, think about your heart rate. All these things that you don't even think about are unconsciously happening. You see, our mind gets programmed. Most of it gets programmed by the age of 7, and then it continues on from there. Continue on to your teen years, and if you don't break these programs, this is when loops become prevalent in your life. Certain relationship dynamics which keep showing up in your life, financial situations will keep repeating to confirm back to yourself why you are who you believe who you are, until you can reprogram your subconscious mind to match the new reality. But we need to really ask yourself, where are these programs coming from? Is it from our parents? Is it from our teachers? Is it from my upbringing? Who gave me these beliefs? Do they have a life that I want? And maybe they had good intention, but maybe they didn't also evaluate the lessons and the programs that they were imparting upon us. You see, this is what I was mentioning about lottery winners. Many wonder, why is it that 99% of lottery winners lose all their wealth? Is because when you don't increase your capacity to receive that type of wealth, and your thermometer is set to a $50,000 a year person, or $100,000 a year person, or being a wage worker, whatever it may be, when they get this newfound wealth, unconsciously, on a subconscious level, they will find the shortest, quickest, and easiest path to get rid of that wealth, to get back to get back their reality to a place where they are comfortable, to match the temperature of their life, their wealth frequency, to make sure that external and internal reality matches. This is why it's very important to get your inner state right before the external reality shows up. Because without the internal growth, the external growth won't last, because it will always collapse to match the internal thermometer that you're set at, your wealth frequency, your relationship frequency, your health frequency. This is also why, I've met some people that, in the case of health, or they will lose an immense amount of weight, lose almost 150 pounds. I had a friend here who, she became an influencer. She had hundreds of thousands of followers because she lost so much weight. But in a few short years, she became even bigger, and she gained all the weight back than before, because what happened was that she used pure force to lose that weight. But it all collapsed because the internal reality, the internal belief that I'm a person who it's easy for me to lose weight, I am a healthy person, that reality inside was not calibrated. So what happens is that, though she could force herself to lose weight, her internal beliefs about herself caught up again, and she gained all the weight back plus more. This is how these situations keep showing up in our life. And you can see how this applies to every category of our life. So again, the lesson with the subconscious mind and reprogramming is that the external change without internal change does not last. That's why in my program, we really focus on having the internal change and then taking the external actions, getting your energy right before you take the action. Because if you take an action without the energy being correct, it's going to be a distorted action. The intention behind the action is distorted. So you don't get the optimal results that you're looking for. And then
I have a question.
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you think that even an imperfect action is better than no action at all, even if it feels uncomfortable or it feels
Yes.
unaligned?
Yes. I think imperfect action is important, but if you can if you can go a step ahead before that, there's unconscious action and then there's conscious action. If you're just unconsciously shooting shots and taking actions, this is when people burn out. And this is when they're trying to force their external reality to change, as opposed to changing their internal reality and getting their intention right, the energy right, the clarity right of why they're doing what they're doing, and then taking the action. This is when aligned action occurs. This is when inspired, aligned action occurs. And I find that it may be less random, but the intention behind it is correct and the right opportunity shows up. And I find that the aligned action will take you farther than 100 misaligned actions. So imperfect action, 100%, everything will be imperfect. However, if you can do the internal work first so you understand why you're taking certain actions, then you will take the right action as opposed to nonstop taking imperfect actions. This is when you fall into force, because you're going to basically trying to force your external reality to change, as opposed to having your internal reality change and then having your external reality match the internal reality. And this brings me to one of my last slides here. And to really truly become a master in the art of receiving is to master gratitude, because gratitude is like a muscle. And the more you use it, the more it grows, and you attract more reasons to be grateful. And if you can't have the same amount of gratitude for a cup of coffee, you won't be grateful on the yacht. I know gratitude is a big buzzword these days, but what I am explaining is that gratitude must be used as a discipline. You know, it's one thing to wake up every day and everyone's grateful for their family, everyone's grateful for their friends. These are easy things to be grateful for. But when you are reprogramming your mind, it requires discipline. It requires constant change in the beginning. So gratitude basically becomes your baseline, because it's easy to be grateful for the big things in life, but can you be grateful constantly for the little things, for your Wi-Fi connection, for the beautiful day, for your eyes to see me here today? You know, when we forget about the little things to be grateful for, oftentimes these are the biggest things, because if you didn't have Wi-Fi, you'll be really grateful when you do have the Wi-Fi. If you didn't have the eyes to see me, these are the big things. So if you don't have a journal, if you don't have a gratitude practice, I highly recommend you do this. And the purpose of this is to simply, it's energetic work. So, you know, when you are grateful for the little things, you will find a million things to be grateful for. And the universe energetically reads that as, oh, you're grateful for that? Let me give you more. You're grateful for this thing? Let me give you more. Let me give you more. Because now you are in a state of receivership. When you are in a state of gratitude, you are in a state of receiving. So the universe will find you more reasons to match that energy that you are in, and gives you more things to be grateful for. But again, there is a price to be paid for all things, because you can't even give a breath without letting go of some breath. You can't even take a breath without letting go of breath. And the cost, there is a paid for all of this. And the price is your current self, your current version. Because if you want financial freedom, if you want health, if you want abundance, if you want joy, you're going to have to give up this current identity you have. Because if you had the identity of the person that has the things you want, you would have it already. So the sacrifice or the cost is your old beliefs, your old habits, your old thoughts, your old emotions. But is that a cost you're willing to pay for your new life of millions of dollars, of financial freedom, of health, of wealth, of abundance? Is that a cost you're willing to pay? This is the question you need to ask yourself, because this type of work is different. It's in my opinion the easiest work, because it's the one thing you can control, which is yourself. You can't control the external reality, but you can control yourself. However, this is the hardest work, because you're going to have to face parts of yourself beliefs that you've had, and you have to do the work to let go of these beliefs, to create space to bring in new beliefs. Those new beliefs will create new actions, and those new actions will create new habits, and those new habits will create an entire new reality. And this brings me to my last point. Is just a quick summary again of what we spoke about here today. Your self-worth is completely correlated with your ability to receive. Transmuting energy, how to receive adversity, to transmute negative situations into very positive situations. Creating a life vision, focusing on all the categories of life, creating a vision around that. So you have to give your brain a GPS location, so you are taking the actions in alignment to the life that you actually want to live. Again, beliefs, reprogramming our subconscious mind, our beliefs into every category in life. And lastly, gratitude. And I would love for you guys to keep in touch with me. Please post this on social media. Follow me on Quantum Sheikh. And if you would like, I would love to have you all in touch. If you scan this QR code, you can join my school community. I have an incredible 130 members in there. Interesting, successful people from all around the world. You're going to get access to conscious entrepreneurs, conscious investors. And I would love to have you join your community. Only $88. And, it's really high quality. And we talk about all things, current events, past things, and would love to have you join.
Great. Thank you so much, Sheikh. So who here, well, first of all, thank you. And thank you all for attending. Who here is willing to maybe be a little bit vulnerable? Like if you want to share some kind of question or sticking point, is there anything that's been holding you guys back when it comes to attracting wealth in your life? You want to ask a question? This is a great time to get answers from the master here. We did have one question. So the offer was for the school community, right? You want to tell us a little bit more about that? You have different kind of, we can get a lot more content and kind of like homework and exercises from you there.
Yeah,
right?
so the school community, we focus on subconscious mind reprogramming, destroying limiting beliefs, installing new beliefs, and creating an incredible life vision for yourself. So there's many exercises, there's many meditations, there's 130 plus community members in there. And we go through every single category of your life. And we have the life wheel as part of your homework. And we measure those categories of your life that you want to improve on. And we measure it after the course, so you can get measurable, because I believe that if you have measurable results, we can really see how much that your life has improved, how you're actually achieving your goals. So it's only $88. Look, I don't do any upsells, downsells, or funnels or clicks. I just don't bother with any of that. I know what I provide, so it's a very nominal fee. It's $88. Join the community. 130 people. There's basically pre-recorded classes for each and every category of your life. You can go at your own pace, and you take the classes as you want to go. I recommend at least once a week doing one category, going through the exercise, going through the meditations, taking the actions, because that's a very important part. So, for example, you want to get your health right. We identify your old beliefs, we remove those old beliefs, we install new beliefs, but you have to take the actions daily to integrate the new beliefs so you can become an entire new person. So there's a whole exercise we go through, and yeah, would love to have anyone that wants to join. If not, would love to have you connect with me on social media. Would love to follow up with you.
Yeah, so thank you, Sheikh. I actually have a question, but before that, I want to apologize for the technical difficulty I had in the beginning, but we will be having you in Nepal as well at Nomad Base Camp, September 1st to 7th. Yes, BizHope, we will send an email with those links and more information, so don't worry about that. But yeah, so I saw that we have been joined by a few of the people that are joining us for the co-living in Nepal. We also have the Nomad Summit happening this September. And basically what we're doing is we're inviting 40 incredible speakers like Sheikh. We're going to have a week full of masterminds, workshops, different activities. So it's really creating an environment and a catalyst for the transformation, whatever your intention is in life, for growth. We will have a co-living with digital nomads, remote workers living together, as well as this summit in Nepal in one of the most beautiful locations on earth. So we're going to be joined by Sheikh. He's going to come for a couple of weeks, I believe. We're going to be doing some trekking together, which is going to be amazing. And we're going to have other authors like other speakers like Ken Honda, Jonathan Foltz, many other speakers joining us as well. So Sheikh, I actually had a question for you.
Sure.
I have to say that I have pretty much abundance in all of those categories that you showed on your chart. But when it comes to business, that seems to be like the most rocky, because I feel like as an entrepreneur, and you mentioned something earlier where you said, this is how I see it, there's like a valley of death when you're an entrepreneur, because there's where you're starting from and where you're trying to get to. And then there's all the things that's in between, and you said that you had an exercise for collapsing that 5 to 10 year timeline where you're kind of struggling to get to where you're trying to go. So let's say that I'm starting a business and it's taking 6 months. I haven't made any money yet. How do I collapse that timeline to realize and manifest that level of success that I'm imagining?
What I would ask you is that what was when you created the business, did you create that business for the sake of money, or did you create that business because you wanted your life to look a certain way after you created that business?
That's a good question. I've done both. I was running a marketing agency and working for 30, 40 clients for probably the first 10 years of my digital nomad journey. And I felt very unmotivated by it because I wasn't really making a difference to anyone. And then when I started other businesses, I have my training company. I have this, summit, this retreat business that I started a few years ago in Greece and Nepal. And it's more about the vision, it's more about what I want to create in the world, and then trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to make it work financially, So it's kind of tricky, and there's not really any, one size fits all approach. We're all just kind of figure this out as we go, right?
Like sometimes, it's one thing to build a business, but sometimes people build businesses with the intention to exit at some point, to be attractive for investors to be purchased. So there are things you can do with your business to make it attractive and for an exit now. You can start preparing your business to make it something that's more attractive to investors now. So there could be certain parts in your business that isn't matching the life that you actually want to live. You might feel like you're on a hamster wheel. You might feel like it's difficult getting clients, and the life vision that you actually want to live because of financial success. Because ultimately, what I hear is that you want the financial success. That you want to create something incredible in the world, but you want financial success to be a byproduct of that. So maybe what I would say is that the vision that you're not living, your business isn't currently operating in the final version of it now. Maybe you are just taking actions because you're operating from a place of scarcity. You are giving off needy energy because you want to really attract people to pay for your packages, pay for your programs. But when you come from the place of you are already serving the vision that you initially created the business for, regardless of financial means, you're already in that space. You're already operating from that space. You'll find that energetically, your clients, your customers, the investors that you want to attract will naturally come to you, be attracted to you from this new space that you're operating from. And anyone can smell it, anyone can sense it when a business is struggling and they really need clients, they really need money. It's a non-needy energy. So some businesses, some entrepreneurs, once they have some experience, they build a business for an exit from the beginning. And they have a clear life path, a life vision to basically have it packaged up and ready to go for the exit, for the financial outcome. But many entrepreneurs, they kind of just, again, and I've done this many times, and I still do it many times, where I am starting it, and you know, you make mistakes as you go, whatever, but it's the energy from which you're starting that business from. Because some people are just trying to get the means to the end, which is they're just trying to make a few bucks to pay their groceries. You know, it's a different energy behind the business, and that will basically percolate throughout the entire business, throughout your customers, through your investors. Like, that will be kind of the baseline energy for the entire venture. So that's what I would say for that kind of situation.
That reminds me of like the greatest chess players in the world. They start by learning how to checkmate the king, you know, rather than the opening moves. And so that's a great point. Like you start with what is the end goal in mind, and you focus on that, right? And you figure that out before you do all the other stuff. Great. Anyone else have any you know, questions for Sheikh, or want to share something? Yeah, Deepshika, go ahead. You have to unmute.
Yes. Awesome. Great session, by the way. And maybe the answer for this question is very obvious, but I still wanted to pick your brain and see if there's a new insight there. But I really loved how you opened the session saying you're always doing what you want to do, when you want to do, whom you want to do, and not to attach to anything else, but just to the vision. And my question is like, how to not attach to the people around you? Because I would love to live that life of where we're doing exactly where with whom, but I feel like sometimes I tend to cling a little bit more with the people. Like as a nomad, I haven't moved to the next one because I'm just still attached to some people. And yeah, like how do you not cling to things, and how do you not attach to other factors other than just your vision?
Yeah, I totally hear you. I totally understand where you're coming from. It's our natural inclination to get attached to comforts, to places, to people, but it's really important to be in a constant state of evolving. Like the people that, if you want to naturally, effortlessly have your life unfold towards your vision, to have it naturally and effortlessly unfold, you have to be willing to be so detached from your current reality that as a natural flow of life is flowing, you are able to listen to yourself, and you know when you have to move on. You know when you have to keep growing, keep evolving, keep changing. And in order to do that, you have to get so good at letting go of the current version of yourself. If you can easily let go of the current version of yourself to allow room and growth for the next version of yourself to emerge, that's going to require practice, to be completely fair with you. If you can get really good at practicing letting go of attachments, you know, if you can sit and meditate and see where you're trying to control an aspect of your life, controlling a relationship, controlling a circumstance, and let go of control, because ultimately you actually don't have any control in this life. If things will fall apart, they will fall apart, but it's your response to the situation. You see, when something doesn't work out in our life and you're really attached to it and you're really trying to control it and you're really trying to make it work, you're not allowing the potential new opportunity, the potential new circumstance to effortlessly come out and show you why this version or this thing that you're attached to is not serving you anymore. So this is going to take some practice. This is going to maybe take some experience, but letting go of attachments, I mean, you can start with small things. You can start if you have old things that you're attached to from 3 or 4 years ago, that was a version of yourself. You know, sometimes we hold on, we want to hoard things, we want to hoard money, we want to hoard relationships, we want to hoard people. Get used to letting go of things. Get used to surrendering to what the universe wants to give you, to what your higher self wants to give you. You know, you ultimately, we want to close fists can't receive anything, right? So when you're really tight, you're really controlled. That's when life gets really, you're resisting change at that point, you know? So I would say just practice, just meditate on things that aren't serving you anymore, and let go of things that you know you have to let go, even if it's painful. Even if it's painful, you have to let go of it. And you'll see that you'll just naturally become more trusting of the unknown. And when you're trusting of the unknown, that's when miracles and miraculous situations can show up in your life. Hope that
I
answers your
really love,
question.
yeah, I really love that answer. So this is what I think this is my takeaway from this. Because I think I was resisting it because in general, I have the tendency to very quickly escape when things are not working. And I was this time trying to cling to it. And my takeaway is, yes, let go of it if it's not working. But first, let go of my current identity and then see if still the same action follows. So I really, yeah, thank you so much for that answer. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So is there anything that you want to, is there any challenge or homework you want to give us between now and the next 2 months before we show up in Nepal? Like, do you want to leave us with something?
I would say, really evaluate your life, see which aspect of your life maybe is, be very honest with yourself, because you have to be, if you want, sometimes, again, this is kind of not in line with what I was saying earlier, but gratitude, because sometimes you can use gratitude as bypassing your situation. It's okay to be grateful, but you should also have to be very honest with yourself. Which part of your life you're like, you know what, I want this to be changed. I want this to be way better. I know this could be 10 times better. I know this person can show up in my life. I know my money can 10x from here. Really see where the limitations are, see what beliefs you hold around that situation, evaluate it, and see what you want to call in. That's it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for joining. As I said in the chat, we will send the links with the slides, recording, and the school invitation. And hope you guys can all come and hang out with me and Sheikh in Nepal and a bunch of other awesome people. We'll send the details about that so you can check your calendar, see if it's something you guys can work into your schedule. Deepshika, I'm crossing my fingers. I hope you'll be able to join us again because it was so lovely having you last year. And we just hope you can bring your energy to the event again.
Thank you, Danny. Same. Yes, I'm praying as well that it works out. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. And we'll catch you on the next get together. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Thank you. Bye-bye.